Hello, how are you? I got back from Australia last Tuesday morning early, and on Thursday, I asked my membership group what was going on with this year's colds and flus because somebody asked me for my weekly immune support, which I make every year and recommend to take once a week or perhaps more frequently if you're in busy places. But in order to do that, I need to know a little bit about what the flu is like. So these colds, etc. So these are my questions. I like also to find what we call the genus epidemicus in homeopathy, the remedies that or remedy that match the flu that we have this year, because each year it's a little different. And in order to do that, I need the symptoms of colds and flu that are going around. So far, at that point, I had gleaned that it's lasting 3 weeks. It's exhausting. It comes with a very sore throat. The sore throat comes and goes. The nose gets very blocked. And I asked if anything else could be added. So somebody wrote from Australia and said, what's been going around here, doctors are saying, is 6 to 7 days of flu, hectic body pains, 2 weeks of extreme fatigue and headaches, and then in the third week, nightly migraines. And what else did someone say? I've had a tiny cold, not flu at all, but lots of runny nose, hoarse voice, and very sinusy. And let's see if we've got any others. Someone else says not flu, but more exhausting than a normal cold. Mine was stuck in my head, or at least that's how it felt. And the homeopathic helpline said take Nat Mure, which did help a bit. I didn't get a bad Nat Mure as a homeopathic remedy, by the way. So if you're not into homeopathy yet and you want to learn more, listen up. And she said she didn't get a bad sore throat, just groggy around the throat, felt groggy around the throat, had a bit of a headache, felt very cold. Her mood was irritable. She felt over emotional. The heart beat fast. She had a really blocked nose, but nothing coming out. She coughed and coughed up phlegm. So quite profound with the lack of energy, almost on a par with the flu, but still felt it was a cold. So I started to get some information about how it would be. And that was on Thursday. Little did I know that I was actually brewing a cold myself, because not surprisingly, I'd been on a 12-hour flight from Australia to Doha. And then from Doha to London is another 9 hours. And on the 12-hour flight, I had the window seat. There was a space between me and the next girl, but I have never seen anybody use so much Kleenex tissues in 12 hours. So basically, I had someone with a full on cold next to me, and I had somebody behind me who was coughing. And I thought, well, however healthy I am, I'm continually being exposed to these pathogens for 12 hours. And we work on the idea of the terrain really in homeopathy. How healthy are you? How's your system? What's your susceptibility to disease? So 12-hour flight, not sleeping very much, I probably increased my susceptibility to disease. I was feeling otherwise well, rested, etc. Got back to the UK and, of course, had quite a lot to do on landing. Tidied a few things around the home and, sorted the washing and put my stuff away and all those things that you busy around doing when you get back, and started up my work. And I had a little bit of pain in my back. Kind of achy between the shoulder blades and the neck, but I put it down to just having traveled, being a bit uncomfortable, being a bit busy. And really, there was a slow onset of several days where I had that ache in my shoulders, but I didn't really put it down to maybe I got a bit chilled on Saturday. The weather had turned a bit cold, but I didn't really kind of equate it with coming down with something until the Sunday. And I'd had a night out, and I thought, wow, actually, that's a really slow onset to what's been going on for me. It takes a long time for it to start. So 3 or 4 days from the point of contact, me being busy, me not getting enough sleep initially. I actually got over the jet lag really quickly with the jet lag combination, homeopathic jet lag combination. But I took a remedy called gelsemium. Now, gelsemium is a homeopathic remedy, which is all about slow onset of acute infectious disease. So something brews over a period of time. You might feel heavy and tired, which of course, if I did feel that, I'd put it down to maybe I'm a bit jet lagged, maybe I've been a bit busy, but it also has this characteristic of aching in the back, aching muscles. So that was a really good remedy for me. And that night I ran my Healy program as well. And it really tipped me into the next phase of the cold, because I ran it for shiver, general protection, kind of environmental defense. And that really helped. Those two things really helped pitch me into the next phase of things. But I had felt like I was bursting. And so my biggest remedy really for the past 5 years for colds and acutes has been a remedy called arsenicum, arsen alb. And that's been one of the biggest remedies for people who have COVID, acute flus. And with that migraine that they were talking about in Australia there in the second week, and waking at night with headaches and waking with a migraine, the most useful remedy that I found is bryonia. So when I had headaches on the Sunday night and Monday night, I took bryonia. Today is Tuesday. I feel so much better. And I think one of the key remedies that I took in there was another one called influenzinum, which is actually made from the flu nosode, we call it, disease material itself. And that really, again, brought a total breath of fresh air, moved me on to the next stage. My nose was running throughout, and I think remedies have helped with that. But that moved me on to the next stage, which is I could feel it in my chest. So I don't really want to be stuck with a cough for several weeks. So I took a remedy, which I've used a lot recently, for night coughs, for persistent coughs. And it's called Stannum metallicum. And what I love about Stannum is it's one of the deeper acting lung remedies if a cough isn't fixed with something like phosphorus, or one of our more regular acute remedies for coughs. So phosphorus, for instance, tends towards a dry cough, a tickly cough, and I can certainly feel that tickle coming. But Stannum metallicum is deeper, and I could feel the fact that this could get deep, and that's certainly what everyone else has said. And I don't want to be off work for 2 to 3 weeks. I've got too much to do. So I've chased that off in 2 to 3 days through listening to my symptoms, matching them with homeopathic remedies, and moving through things. And interestingly, one of the things that one of the people in the membership group also said, besides the tiredness, was dizziness. So the remedy for the exhaustion that I was feeling that I took, actually before I took the arsenicum, was phosphoric acid, or sometimes called acid phos. Phosphoric acid, a very depleted state, a very worn out state, and I could feel that tiredness in me. So that's really helped shift things. And then the other remedy that I was thinking of for the dizziness was cocculus. And I used my bioresonance program, which is a different program to the Healy that I use. And I've used it for 20 years in my practice. And it brought up the remedy cocculus for a client. And I thought, well, that's interesting at the end of her cold. I don't really associate that remedy with colds at all. And maybe I need to go and read my book. And then I ran my program for somebody else who was getting over colds and flus, and this person did actually feel dizzy, and it came up with cocculus. And lo and behold, I ran my program for me, and it came up with cocculus. And I thought, I've never given this remedy in an acute. Now I do put this remedy into my jet lag combo. So I had already taken it earlier in the week in a 30C as part of my jet lag combination, but I've never associated that. So when I looked at it, it's really a remedy which is about dullness in the cerebrospinal axis. And one of the things that's really got to me about this COVID type acute that we've been having basically for the last 5 years is how quickly it goes to the nervous system for some people, how it almost stuns the nervous system so that you can't think straight, you can't speak, you're forgetful. You don't feel yourself. And it's very interesting when I started to look at that. It's got an oversensitivity generally, sensitive to noise and to odors. It's got a slowness of comprehension, taking a long time to answer, a long time to consider, and has an aversion to being disturbed, can feel quite angry perhaps from interruption and then lose the thread of their thoughts, can't find the right word, cannot finish anything. Movements are carried out with a marked deliberation. So really interesting for your cases if you are struggling with those types of symptoms in an acute, a cold or a flu acute. Dizziness, that kind of dullness of the senses that's not perhaps fixed by gelsemium that can feel like that. But certainly towards the end of things, if people are feeling dizzy, worth a look. So those are my remedies. Also took a little bit of nux vomica with the bryonia, but I can see sort of shaping up how useful they might be. When my son messaged me, he had a lot of the sore throat. I didn't really get that. I use a little Mexican spray called chocolate, and every time I got the feeling of the sore throat, I used that. And so that didn't really develop for me. But my son texted me when I was in Australia, and I gave him Mercurial, or recommended Mercurius. And in fact, he did well on Merc Iod Flav, which has an affinity for the right side of the throat. So I would think about Mercurius for the sore throat and the other types of mercury remedies if indicated, and possibly phosphorus if there's the hoarseness. That's worth a look. But I just wanted to mention some of the other things that I also take. So alongside the fact that we are generally minerally depleted, there are things that I always take, like blue-green algae, organic blue-green algae, and that's rich in B vitamins and C. So I didn't take extra vitamin B or C, but that's something that I would recommend with most colds and flus these days, because we saw how useful they were in 2020, 2021, and I'm still seeing the need for those very much, because the B9 and B12 go a long way towards generating and repairing your DNA. So if what's going around at the moment, whether it be long COVID or post-vaccine or COVID itself, is affecting your DNA, your RNA, then you need that B9 and B12 to help repair and protect what is absolutely vital to you. So organic vitamin D is also on the menu for me. I took Immunomax, which is a more herbal combination. I really like this. Unfortunately, not available in Europe anymore, but available in the States if you are over there. And I also take this, which in the States is called ViroSure, but in UK and Europe it's called Red Algae Plus. This is antiviral, basically. So you've got red algae in it, and you have oregano and a few other really useful herbs. Quercetin is well documented for dealing with the kind of thing that is going around these days. So that goes in the mix. These are only while I'm doing an acute. This blue-green algae take all the time. Because I got something like this back in June after I'd flown, and that was only to Europe, it wasn't long haul. I'm going to carry on taking the vitamin D for a while, because we're going into the autumn here in the UK. So I'm going to carry on taking the vitamin D. I might get a blood test to see what my vitamin D levels are like, to see if my thyroid's struggling a bit, because the thyroid draws up iodine, and iodine's utilized in our immune response. So my thyroid has been low in the past. So that's where I'll just check to see if there's anything amiss, because I don't normally get acutes. So for me to get something like this twice, even though I've chased it off with all these fabulous resources, is still something that I'm alert to, you know. So I'd like to find out why. So I've flown other times and haven't got something like this. I've also been in extremely busy places. You know, I was working at Glastonbury for a week, wasn't getting enough sleep, was amongst thousands and didn't get something like this. So I appreciate there's kind of reasons why we might be more susceptible at times than at others, but I always kind of like to know why. Take a bit of magnesium. This is a fabulous new product actually from Aquasource, plant sourced magnesium, which is quite hard to get hold of. So I'm really glad they've brought that out and that's readily available. Most magnesium comes from a more mineral resource. So yeah, so I pop that back in, and I take a zinc. I can't remember the brand because I got this when I was traveling, and decanted it into a smaller container to come home. But it was recommended that I take zinc. That actually came up on a mineral program, an Eligo scan that I did with Eugenie Kruger, and it showed that I was deficient in zinc. Now, that alone could predispose you to colds, flus, etc. It's fundamental for immune system. So let's see what happens with boosting that a bit longer term. And the other thing that I add in, which really I should take all of the time, is a fatty acid, essential fatty acid, or an omega. And you want the balance to be right between your 3, 6s, 9s, and 7s, so that you're not overdoing it with the 6s, for instance, because it's easy with processed seed oils to overdo it with the 6s. So yeah, you want the balance right between 3, 6, 7, and 9. And I really like this one because it's in a great balance. But basically, omegas and essential fatty acids are anti-inflammatory. And that feeling that I had right at the beginning of this, of being about to burst, shows that I was in an inflamed state. The heart racing that someone mentioned shows that the system is on alert and are potentially dealing with something inflammatory when it comes to the pathogen. And other symptoms like the headache, you know, if it presses into your teeth, headache alone shows inflammation in the system, but if it's pressing into your teeth, it certainly shows, and I had a bit of that going on, it certainly shows that you need anti-inflammatory agents. And the same with the back pain, you know, so taking omegas is fundamental generally, but specifically anti-inflammatories like that are really helpful during an acute. So I've talked a lot, and you can listen back to this and jot some things down. But I wanted to start with saying you can get through an acute with homeopathy, with supplements, and you can do it a lot faster. You don't have to suffer for 2 to 3 weeks with an acute, you know. So seek out advice. The homeopathic pharmacies have helplines. It might be that a remedy moves you on to the next stage, as you've heard with me, and so it's time to take the next remedy in the sequence. But yeah, that's it for today. And I just thought it was worth me sharing what was going on for me and what's helped, because we're going to need it. You know, everybody that I said in the last 3 days, oh, I'm not feeling great because I've got a cold or flu or whatever it is, said, oh, I know loads of people that are going down with something at the moment. So that's why I thought, gosh, better record something quick. So think about these. I'm just coming down with remedies. Think about a weekly immune support, and think about supporting your family. I'll put a little link below actually. I've got a good course, how to use your homeopathy kit. So get a homeopathy kit. I'm just going to show you mine. Well traveled, and it comes with a booklet. That's the booklet there. And I've got a few extra remedies in there that are favorites I always travel with, but they look like this. 42 remedies in this particular one, all of them for all sorts of different things. I mean, you've got remedies in here for headaches, period pains, emotional upsets, all sorts of things. And then the fabulous booklet that goes with it. And the booklet has in it the remedies themselves and information about the remedies. And then it has a whole list of symptoms, the kind of remedy prescriber guide, you know. So I'm just going to flick through it. Anxiety, remedies for anxiety, remedies for arthritic pain, back pain, remedies for bites and stings, boils, abscesses, burns, etc. So in that kit, if you've got that at home and you ring the homeopathic helpline or a homeopathic pharmacy, they'll be able to guide you to take the right remedy for what's going on for you. So basically, don't suffer. There's lots of amazing resources. Thanks for listening this far. Bye for now.